So I just compared the last 3 months of sleep data between the Apple Watch and the Oura Ring, and I found some pretty interesting insights. Stick along so I can show you what I found. So here's the deal. These wearables, these health tracking wearables that we wear, they do provide some insightful data. For example, the Oura Ring may tell you why you're feeling bad that day. You wake up with a groggy head and you don't really feel like going to work today. Well, your Oura Ring could probably tell you. The Apple Watch can tell you you're not hitting your calorie mark. These wearables are great, but they offer a wide suite of features that don't entirely add to your day unless you really look into them. And also, they're not 100% accurate all the time. Let me explain. So in order to conduct this experiment, I had to make the poor financial choice to buy an Apple Watch and an Oura Ring, and I compared both of them. So over the 3 months, 84 nights were compared because that's when they tracked on both devices. For whatever reason, the Apple Watch didn't track this night and the Oura Ring didn't track on other nights. So I just took the nights that the dates matched up. And some of the things I found were pretty interesting. So in the comments down below, let me know, do you think the data will match up or do you think it'll be different across the board? I mean, they do use different algorithms. The data was actually largely the same, which is really boring, but there are some big differences in certain outliers that don't really make sense to me, and I think it highlights something important about these devices. So there's a couple key metrics that the Apple Watch covers, and there's metrics that the Oura Ring covers, and they call them slightly different things. They're the same data. I formatted it to make them match, and I made sure that I only went over the things that overlapped. Starting off first with the total time of sleep. This data set, largely the same. Not too many variations in this particular metric. And that's good because that means you can trust your Apple Watch or your Oura Ring. You don't need both to compare, and they can both give you a pretty good idea of how long you were sleeping that night. So that's good. Over these 3 months, on average, according to the Apple Watch, I slept 7 hours and 6 minutes, where on the Oura Ring, I slept an average of 7 hours and 9 minutes. So with a variation of only 3 minutes, this is what that tells me, is that these companies are developing algorithms based off your vital signs that kind of pinpoint the very exact moment that you go to sleep and that you wake up. Just because there's a 3-minute difference doesn't mean either one was wrong. It just means each company has a different algorithm to determine when I woke up and when I went to sleep. Honestly, it's a very minimal difference. I really don't care about 3 minutes of sleep. So as long as I'm hitting about 7 hours, which both devices say I am, I'm good to go. Tell me what you think. So here's where the data kind of diverges. Time of sleep was fine, but when you pick at how I spent my time asleep, they kind of change how they track things. So the Apple Watch says I had about an hour and 9 minutes a night of deep sleep. Great. I don't know the ratio, but as long as I'm getting deep sleep, I'm good with that. But the Oura Ring says I'm getting about an hour and 40 minutes. So where's the disconnect? This may seem like a minor detail, but hold on, let me explain. Also, my Apple Watch said I only spent 16 minutes awake on average during my night, whereas my Oura Ring said I spent about 40 minutes awake a night. So, I mean, with this data, right, what it's saying is that I've spent twice as long awake per night over 80-something nights. A large disparity. So here's the kicker. On one of these nights, one device counted an extra 3 hours worth more of sleep. Now, I don't know about you, but an extra 3 hours of sleep, I'd be happy all day. There's only one source of truth, and I don't remember that exact night, but one device says 3 hours more, one device says 3 hours less. But here's the thing. In statistics, there's this idea that if 95% of the results are the same and you have, 5% of outliers, you can throw it out. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that, yes, these devices have similarities, and yes, these devices have different, but they're largely the same. The data that they collect is not significantly different. Yes, we're putting the Apple Watch and the Oura Ring head to head, but one isn't necessarily better than the other. They're great for their own purposes and they do different things. And some things that they overlap on is tracking health metrics. Well, I wouldn't choose a device. But here's the point I'm trying to make with that. People make decisions based on the data that they receive from their health device. So if I see one night I have a readiness score of 60, I may choose to stay in that day. I may not work out that day. I may try to change some of my habits to increase that score, where if I had just worn the Oura Ring, my score would have been a 90. When you have large differentials in sleep data, your readiness score is significantly affected. And I'm just using sleep as a talking point. I'm using readiness score as a talking point, but this could apply to any set of health metric related ideas. So I say all this is to use this as a tool, but not the end all be all. This is not the one source of truth. And this is just a tool to help you achieve your goals. And before you did what I did, buy 2 devices and try to somehow get the average of, don't. Listen, they both agree on the number that matters, your total time of sleep. The nitty gritty, tiny little metrics, you're optimizing for 39 minutes of margin of error. That is almost 45 minutes a night. It's a significant chunk. If you're not able to rely on the data that you're given, I don't think that you should be making large decisions based on that data. Now, with that being said, they're used for general ideas. So if you're having a bad week, maybe you ought to look into some. But one bad metric on one day is not an indicator of any changes in your health. Think about that. So for me, how I choose to look at this data now is not as the source of truth, simply a guiding light for how maybe I should change my habits on a monthly macro basis, month by month, week to week maybe, but not day to day. For example, instead of working out 3 days a week, I work out 4 days a week. Not things that you would do, but all I'm saying is don't buy too many just for the metrics, and also don't make big decisions based off one metric. They're both great for what they do. Have a good one. Bye-bye.